Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 42 of On the Flank. I'm one of your hosts, John George, alongside Joe Kirkpatrick. Say hello, Joe.
Hey, everybody.
And Joe, we got to start off the week by admitting to our mistakes that we have made last week. Because we got a tweet from V Cinema Show on Twitter. Last week, I think it was me. I think I definitely was the one who said Shanghai Dragons don't have an academy team, but I was completely wrong.
It was
Team
when we were
CC.
talking about. It was when we were talking about Kodak, I think, and talking about how that lots of teams can send players to the
To the
academy teams
academy.
just for experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and not only do Shanghai Dragons do have an academy team, but they have been sending some of their players there for experience. Fearless and Five King specifically, who were on the team last year, are now on their academy team, Team CC. So V Cinema Show tweeted us, enjoy your show. Thank you, V Cinema Show, if you're listening right now. He said, FYI, the Shanghai Dragons Academy team is Team CC. Fearless and Five King, who were on the Dragons during the inaugural season, were moved to CC most recently. Hashtag breakthrough. Liked by the Shanghai Dragons themselves. V Cinema Show. Congratulations.
That's how you know you made it.
Yeah, I mean, and he in his Twitter bio, he is a Shanghai Dragons fan. So that's big. That's big for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but there we go. I mean, it's always good to admit to your mistakes, Joe. And we're here doing it right now. We're wrong sometimes. Don't take our word as fact. But yeah, Joe. Now that we got that out of the way, I think it's time to talk about the Houston Outlaws. Have you heard of
I
them?
I guess so. I mean, hopefully you're pronouncing that right. We haven't heard
Yeah. I
much
haven't.
about them yet this season, but
Don't know if I've talked about them on the show before, but they're a team.
it's true. They
But
just
yeah,
suddenly showed up this week. It's great.
I guess so. The stage in general too. So they're 2-1 in the
It's true.
stage now, right? They're 2-1. So coming into this stage, they were 3-11. They're 5-12 now, and they, if you don't know, they beat the San Francisco Shock in the first game of last week, 3-2 in 5 maps. They also beat the Boston Uprising 4-0. And they lost to NYXL in 5 maps last week. So their stage is fine right now. 2-1 when you're facing Shock, NYXL, and Boston, pretty good. We'll talk about Boston later because I have no clue what's happening there, Joe. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna instead of go. I mean, we can go into the game in a bit here, but we're gonna start off with a hot question, Joe, a fiery question,
Huh.
and that is: do the Houston Outlaws make season playoffs?
Season playoffs.
Season playoffs, not
Means
stage. It's easier
that
to make
means
stage, but they're 5-12. Can they sneak in to that wild card spot?
let's see. That means they got to pull up
Their schedule.
season schedule, don't I? Yeah.
Well, the rest of the
This is
stage, they
the
got
rest of this
Paris.
stage is really doable.
They got
Um,
Paris. They got Washington. They got Toronto, and I
and
believe
Florida.
that's it. And Florida. So that's
Yeah.
really easy.
And next stage they're playing Washington again, Paris again, Gladiators London probably be their two hardest matches of next stage,
Which is,
and then also Philly and Atlanta in week 2 and Chengdu.
and they got London.
Yeah.
They got London that stage. London and Gladiators, two hardest matchups, but the rest of them are winnable with their current form.
Yeah, I mean, if they keep, you know, from 3 matches of data that we have, which isn't, tons, but I mean, I think it was Jake saying that the mid season break was really good for him. Sort of just a reset about trying to figure out what they need to do and get stuff going. I mean, take New York to 5 maps, you take Shock to 5 maps, and then a dominant 4-over over Boston. I mean, that's exactly what you need in something like that.
Oh yeah.
So if they are what is the record right now?
5-12.
5-12, and they'll probably need.
Well,
Let,
technically, right now, the Toronto Defiant in the 12th place spot only with 7 wins, so they're only 2 wins behind um,
it's
12th
true.
place right now. So they're pretty. They're in there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think if you wanted to finish with a 500 record, that would be probably doable. Again, if they keep up these last 2 weeks worth of stuff, probably doable. Um, I imagine that's about the best you can hope for, though. Um, again, coming from 5-12, and then um, you know, in theory, that should make because it's top 12, um, right, to get into like the
Yeah.
play-ins and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So in theory, a 500 record ought to be good enough for that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely,
yeah. I
because
mean,
right now we have two teams under 500 who are in that position. Paris and Toronto, both two
it's true.
two games behind 500, and they are currently, if the season ended today, they would make it.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So I think it's possible. I think I'd certainly be more confident saying that after this next week, and we can watch Houston in. I guess they're only playing one game. No, they're playing twice this week. Yeah. So a good win over Paris, good win over Florida. Um, these are the kind of wins that you need if you want to be a team that's making these play-ins, especially if you want to have any kind of success at all.
Yeah, I think the Paris one's going to be a good match because Paris is kind of getting hot here too. I don't know what their win streaks look like, but they've been looking a lot better lately, especially in this stage. I think both Houston and Paris sort of a bit on the rise here. So that's definitely going to be a match to look out for. That's well, we're recording this on a Thursday for the first time, so that's today.
It's true.
Yeah, um, a little bit late this week, Joe, but we're here. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the podcast, but we made it. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, this is like crunch time. We're right before the games here today.
it's true. It started in like what, 5 hours, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 5 hours. Yeah, four. Okay, cool. Let's move on then. Let's
Yeah,
make sure we can get this out. um,
yeah. Our podcast usually runs 6.5 hours, so we have to
yeah, so we really
we have
got.
to
It's gonna have to
compress
be
it
a
in.
shorter episode. Uh, that'd be insane. Imagine it, because like I used to work for like a radio or an intern for a radio station, and their shows are like 4 hours long. Imagine if we did this for 4 hours, Joe. What would we talk about? That's insane.
I don't know. I mean, better people than us do it. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, there are a bunch of Overwatch podcasts that are like 2 hours. I haven't seen like a 4 hour long, but they're a bunch of like 2 3 hour podcasts. Ours like almost reached an hour and a half every week. So
Yeah,
I mean, we got a lot to talk. If we talked about every team individually, we could do that.
it's true.
Which
That's true.
I I would we could have like a mega podcast one day. We would have to like find like a weekend or
Yeah.
something, and maybe stream it. Maybe we do our first live podcast.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah.
In the
Um,
meantime, we fill the more manageable show size niche, so
yeah, exactly.
it works.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, let's talk about the game itself. Oh, Outlaws San Francisco Shock. Because I mean, this did start on Nepal with a very close Nepal 2-1 with some Dante Sombra action that really got some things kicked off, and it seemed like, I mean, it was the classic Outlaws thing this entire match, kind of, that they've been going through this whole season. When they were on more comfortable heroes for themselves, they look amazing, and they did it once again here, especially with Dante Sombra getting some huge hacks in. But then you have the next two maps, Joe, that Outlaws were unable to get a single point on either Lunar Horizon Colony or Eichenwald. Um, how do you think they managed to turn it around after getting shut out those two maps? Like, as a viewer, I almost tuned out mentally. Like, I was like, okay, like, because control can usually be iffy, right? When someone takes control, you're like, okay, this might not be indicative of what's going to happen. And then when San Francisco sort of dominates the next two maps, you're like, okay, this is over. How do you think they were able to persevere that?
Yeah, no, it's I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, with the control maps that I mean, they're made to be that way, but that they can really go either way, just depending on really small things. With like the symmetrical maps and all that. I mean, that's kind of the point. But yeah, so pick up control is good. I mean, Houston last season was not good at control at all. Um, and same thing coming in map 5, also the control map 2-0 over shock. But yeah, Havana being the map to turn it around, and it's been a week since that uh, since that game. But pulling off a full hold against San Francisco, and then coming back and taking a 1 point of their own. I mean, that's exactly what you want to be doing. Against that sort of team, and I think I wonder if it's like the newness of the map, maybe that partly was played to their advantage potentially in there. That lots of the teams are more sort of on a more even playing field on Havana than on some of these other maps.
Yeah, I mean, just watching Havana so far this stage, it definitely seems like it's almost a free for all. And watching Paris last stage too, I mean, the meta on that map's still evolving. So they don't know exactly what they're running yet. They're not 100% confident on what they should be running or where they should be on the map or where, all that stuff. No one it just came into existence, Joe. So they don't know. They haven't mastered this place yet. So that definitely might be helpful. But then they just come out on Ilios, which is a map that San Francisco has definitely played before. This came out a very long time ago in comparison to Havana, and Houston Outlaws 2-0'd them on this map in a dominant fashion. And yeah, it's very weird that Houston. I mean, Houston defied almost everything they're usually bad at, control maps and then map fives in this one series to beat the current best team in the league. So
It's true.
it's pretty impressive. But I think we should give our MVP of the week out right now. I think it's a fitting time, Joe, because
Yeah.
our MVP, your MVP and my MVP is sort of we're a good duo this week, especially in this match. Um, I went with Muma on the Reinhardt, and you went with Joe.
Dante, playing lots of Sombra this series, and being super successful at it.
Yeah, I wanted to pick Muma to go with your Dante because I think Dante was able to get the huge EMPs and then Muma was coming in with huge Earth Shatters in response. I think they worked really well as a duo when they both had their ultimates up, and I think that was a big part of this victory and how good they've been looking lately as far as their synergies goes. I mean, when we talk about Houston Outlaws being on heroes they're comfortable with, Muma is so comfortable on that Reinhardt. So uh, way more than the Winston or anything else that he'd be on a wrecking ball. He's a good wrecking ball too, but Reinhardt's his guy. So he looked really great following up those EMPs. I mean, the EMP shatter was almost everything that the shock was scared of this week. So I think both our MVPs had a big part.
Abs-
um, and this is my
Absolutely.
match. This is my match. This is one of our matches to rewatch. Our other match to rewatch was the one that was up next between the Shanghai Dragons and the Atlanta Reign. Shanghai Dragons being highly power ranked by almost everyone across the board lately. They're top. They've like almost always, like for a very long time now, been like top five in reinforces power rankings. Everyone loves this team, and Atlanta Reign has been deemed one of the giant slayers in this league, beating NYXL twice, um, going head to head with some very top teams, and then also losing to Guangzhou Charge in the midst of all of that.
As one
Embarrassing.
does.
Yes, of course. You beat NYXL twice, and then you lose to Guangzhou Charge. Obviously, that's what happens. But this
Yeah,
was also a five mapper. Were these the only two five mappers this week?
that
Yes,
would
they
be
were.
surprising, but I guess so.
Yeah, I mean we're getting. I've been talking about this more lately. With 20 teams, we've been getting some more matches that are going to be obvious winners, obvious losers. So we just have a lot more dud matches because of the more teams we have. But we had two really good matches to start off the week. So, but this was a close one. This was a very close one. How do you think Shanghai managed to pull it out in the end, Joe?
Yeah, and this was one of the matches we picked too. Because in fact, I seem to recall, last week the Shock Houston match was sort of a joke. We're like, it's gonna be close because Houston's looking so good. But like we didn't actually predict it or anything. But this was when we did. Shanghai Atlanta. We both actually had picked Shanghai initially,
And then
but then I
yeah,
went back and changed to Atlanta, which I've discovered now I should not do.
mm-hmm.
I should just go with my gut. Um, but yeah, this back and forth. We see in the map score, Atlanta was up 2-1 after three, and then Shanghai came back to take the last two. Um, but yeah, we went to 6 rounds on Volskaya, so that was fun. Uh, 3 or 4 on Nambani. Yeah, I don't know. Atlanta playing lots of Daco. I mean, it was sort of a thing that they went back and forth with in stage two, and it's glad to see him back because it's definitely an asset for the team. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I'm impressed by both teams. Honestly, Atlanta Reign, despite losing, God, why can't? Despite losing, what is his name? Why
Dufresne.
they're Defran?
Oh, of course,
How did
Dufresne.
I forget Defran's name? That's embarrassing. Despite losing Defran, who I think was probably the best player in the first stage, they continue to impress me every week. That the fact that they're sticking with these teams, I wasn't convinced even after they beat NYXL twice. But honestly, they're staying close with all these teams. They just got to win though, because they ended up getting 4-0'd by Seoul later this weekend. So you definitely see the potential for Atlanta there, and you see it all the time. They maybe just need that one more piece. I can't imagine how different this might be if they did have DeFran. That would I would like to go to the dimension where that exists and see if they're winning all these games or what's happening. But
It's
another
true.
close one. I'm still not as sold on Shanghai Dragons as like reinforces like top five of his power rankings. I know they're 9-7 now. They're seventh overall in the league. So they're
That
they're
sounds
up
right.
there. They're up there for sure, and they've got a good team. I don't know if they're contending for a championship, but they I think they're definitely a playoff team.
Oh yeah. Well, and speaking of reinforced, I know he's brought Houston up into the top 10 this week too.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are bringing Houston up into their top 10 because I don't know, beating San Francisco's a big feat, honestly. Like you can beat NYXL because every once in a while they get upset, or you can beat London because they get upset. San Francisco hasn't gotten upset much, especially since stage two. And Vancouver. Like if you beat Vancouver or San Francisco, like everyone's gonna be like, "Oh my God, this team must be really good."
It's true.
And
It's true.
yeah, that like San Francisco and Vancouver are like another breed on goats. So when you're going head to head with them, it's like, oh, like this team must be good actually.
Yeah.
And we forgot to mention Houston. Houston did get this is since Houston got sold too. So maybe that has sort of changed things behind the scenes there.
Yeah,
Because
they've been released from their whatever it was.
yeah, from Optic. So now Immortals Immortals like on the interim owns them, which is an organization who actually has disposable money that they can use, whereas Optic did not. So that's probably very freeing just getting out of that situation in general is probably very freeing. So that's good for them overall. But let's move on to Dallas Fuel, Joe, because the Dallas Fuel are having a little bit of a bad stage. They're 1-3 in this stage so far. They've had a tougher schedule, but Chengdu Hunters maybe one that they should have won, especially if they're going to want to make stage playoffs here. They ended up
Yeah,
losing.
I was a little surprised that it wasn't as close as it was, but yeah.
Yeah, they ended up losing 3-1 to Chengdu because I mean maybe should have been a little like Chengdu's just been super inconsistent. They have looked really good at times. At other times they've looked fairly mediocre. This is apparently one of their times that they look good. But Joe, I mean Dallas Fuel, they're still over 500, I believe. I think they're 10-8 overall. I lost my standings page, but I believe
Dallas
yes, 10-8. Yeah.
are 10-8. Yeah.
So they're sitting in that ninth place spot. But they did. I mean, they had that very easy stage last stage two, that is, which sort of skyrocketed them up in the standings. Is this just like a free fall at this point, Joe? Or are they just going to keep dropping, or do you see this team sort of getting it together here?
I mean, they've got a rematch against Chengdu this week, as well as Hangzhou and New York later in the stage. Those are both going to be difficult matches for sure. Because at this stage, Dallas is sitting at what 1-3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm not predicting as good a stage three as they had stage two for sure. Um, and then stage four they're playing London, Gladiators, and Shock. But I don't know. I think that there's definitely good qualities in this team that they've um, um, it's hard to say. I don't know. You know exactly what's happening. They've definitely got the potential to have some success. I don't think it's gonna be to this stage necessarily, but potentially pulling up onto like a postseason playoff spot. I'm trying to see where they are now. Yeah, cause they're sitting at 9 now. I think it's gonna be relatively okay for them to maintain that.
Yeah, it's definitely not too hard to make that top 12, especially when you're in this good of a position that Dallas feels in right now. They're really gonna have a meltdown to not make that 12. Especially, I mean, they've been playing consistently like they should be in the top 12. So it's definitely going to have to, because when they're facing teams like Washington or really bad teams, they'll absolutely stop them, and I think they'll continue to do that. It's just they need to grab some wins against these teams that are like around the same position as they are in the standings. Um, Especially Chengdu, like you gotta win that one if you're gonna keep it up here for Dallas. And if you're gonna try to break out as like an elite team too, because and it, I mean, it even alludes to the wild card thing itself. If you can't beat those other teams that are in the wild card playoff, you're not gonna make it into the actual playoffs, especially if you're not gonna make top six. So Dallas has just got to learn to do that, and then they'll be good.
Yeah, just get good.
Just get good, Joe. That's fantastic. Fantastic advice for them. What else? What else? I mean, Vancouver had a smooth sailing week. Hangzhou, I mean, they played them close in the maps, but didn't end up going to map five, 3-1. Overall, Vancouver had a nice, easy week, and one of those other games was against Dallas too. So Dallas not too good of a week.
Yeah.
Um, but
You
nothing else is news here besides I feel like Boston uprising because they have been the opposite of their nickname, Joe.
It's true.
Um,
They have been
they
crashing and burning.
what is happening?
And I guess that might be a little bit harsh again because we're only 2 weeks in. But yeah,
Yeah,
to have a Boston sitting at 0-4 and a -11 map differential, um, that's a problem. Going into stage three. And I mean, you know, we saw if you're on Reddit at all, I'm sure you've seen the clip of fusions after the Houston game, which is just like a little overcoming his frustration. But um, if you're losing to teams like Philly, who's had a terrible 6 weeks or whatever, that's not a game you want to lose. Houston isn't a game you want to lose. Um, Again, with like teams that are around your level, and then
Yeah.
Boston going into play in shock this week. Philly again in week 4. Um, they need to have some wins, but at this rate, it's not. They're not coming. And I don't know. There's speculation. Oh, there might be something like going on behind the scenes that we don't know. Um, what the deal is exactly, but at the same time, yeah, it's. I kind of wonder if you scrap this stage and look forward to stage 4 when you're playing Guangzhou and Chengdu and Florida and the Valley and Atlanta,
I mean,
um,
this
and
stage,
DC.
this stage on paper is not that hard for them either.
It's
they
true.
should have beat Philly. They should have beat Paris. Houston's streaking right now, and London's London. But they, Joe, looking at their schedule, out of the last 9 games, they have lost 8 of their last 9 games.
That's fun.
Yeah, they are. I would be frustrated too. That's awful. They did start off playing like Hangzhou, London, then Vancouver. They had their one win is against the Gladiators, um, but they have their losses include Paris, Washington, a very bad currently Philly team. Like they have losses against some pretty bad teams. So I mean, this past 9 games, they're really gonna want to erase from their memory here. Uh, it's it's been rough going for Boston, and it's hard not to assume that it is something behind the scenes, especially with the reputation that this team has sort of had in the past, especially with their players not wanting that sort of environment. If the environment's like that, that's not good.
Yeah, it's if you have, like you said, that reputation of having um, not an ideal situation. That's it's hard to break. The
Yeah,
speculation when you get in a situation like this.
yeah. I mean, the Boston wants to go for the Patriots, the New England Patriots mindset, um, which is basically just work work the hell out of your players, and then win. That's the mindset. Is like, this isn't fun. This is a job, and you're gonna be really good at it, or else we're gonna get mad. I know that because my hometown of Detroit, their football team, the Lions, now has a former Patriots coach, our former Patriots like assistant coach as our head coach, and he came in and he said he wanted to instill the Patriots mindset in our locker room. And one of my friends who works for the Lions said that it's either going to work out super well. If we're winning, everyone's going to be super happy that we have this regimented, awesome, like, work hard mentality. But if we're losing, everything's going to blow up,
Yeah,
because everyone's going to be mad that they haven't been allowed to, like, have fun at all. Everyone's going to be mad that they're working so hard and they're getting no results. And
and then they'll assume that's the reason.
exactly. They'll be
Yeah,
like, we need more. Your morale just goes straight down to the basement. Like, if you are like treating, basically you're working so hard and it is doing the opposite of paying off. It's just brutal. And that's what seems to be happening right now. And that's why it's such a big downfall. I feel like if that's the mindset, of course, me and Joe we don't live with these people. We don't get to see what happens, but
it's true.
we're just assuming based off of like what we've heard about how they want to run that organization. But yeah, Boston on the downfall.
Yeah, and not looking good for a couple weeks, but we'll see.
Yeah. um, Anything else you want to talk about, Joe? Everything else seems sort of run of the mill,
Seoul
expected it to
had,
happen.
oh yeah, I guess they beat Atlanta 4-0 and then lost to Shock 4-0, but they've been doing pretty good this stage.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's
It's
classic Soul. Just get destroyed by a really good team, but destroy bad teams. Like, I feel like that happens all the time to them.
yeah, Uh, Washington drew a map with Hangzhou. That's kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah, true. I mean, LA Valiant's kind of on the rise here. Um, I mean, they only beat Guangzhou, but they're 2-1 in this stage so far. So we'll see. We'll see how that ends up going. LA Valiant and Houston like kind of have some sort of green team like alignment on Twitter now. I mean, they are owned by the same company right now, so
It's true.
um, hmm.
Philly finally got a win. That's it's
Yes,
been.
they did.
I don't know how big their losing streak is, but
As a Philly fan, how do you feel, Joe?
I mean it's good. Uh, let's see. Okay. They 3-1 Florida most recently, or no, that was the end of stage two. Before that,
They lost
uh,
three. They lost three in a row before they beat Boston.
yeah, they beat Houston week three stage two,
Hmm.
and then have lost since then, I think.
Hmm.
So yeah,
It's been a good while.
yeah. Well, and I wonder if Houston now could beat them. I mean, I think actually, are they playing? Or was that some
Houston
other
could
team that's
probably
playing
beat them now.
Philly? I don't know. That was Boston that was playing Philly coming up, but that's fine.
Yeah, Philly plays Atlanta next week, which is going to be hard. Um, but yeah, I mean, Philly's the team that's like begging for a 2-2-2 lock. And if they get it, all they have to do is like sort of, where are they in the standings right now?
Like
Mm,
13 or something, 14.
they
No,
just got to hover.
14 in the stage, 10 in the season.
Yeah, they 10. They just got to hover around there and then hope, pray that stage 4 is going to be a 2-2-2 lock. And then once that happens, like they'll be feeling a lot better.
It's true.
Uh, so they just
It's
got to
just,
like stay 500 almost.
let's just be able to play more comfortably, I think,
Hmm. I mean, they
in
want.
that situation.
I think Boombox in an interview like said, "What kind of meta do you?" I can't remember what the question. I think it was like, "What kind of meta do you guys throw?" And he's like, "Any meta where DPS players can play DPS." That was his answer. So yeah, Philly's really hoping for that. Anything else from this week, Joe?
Um, we saw lots of Sombra. Um, I
Yeah,
mean, there was lots
it,
of Sombra stage one, sort of died off a little bit stage two, but I saw a graphic somebody posted, probably Captain Planet on Twitter, that it's like 5 or 10% more Sombra this stage so far than in the past.
yeah, that's super weird that it's just all this because at some point everyone was just like, okay, summer goats is just inferior to regular goats because people figured it out, and now it's just all of a sudden everyone's like, actually, people haven't figured it out. We're gonna play Sombra, and it's working. You saw the top team like go down for the first time in a while, so
Yeah.
that's because of Sombra. Joe's gonna have to give his stage MVP to Sombra again.
Yeah. Yeah, for a while it just sort of seemed like it's like that phrase those who can play 3-3 goats and those who can't play Sombra goats, but um maybe there's a little more to it now.
Yeah, who knows? Lots more Sombra. We'll see if it continues through next week. But Joe, we have where's my sheet? We have a lot of news specifically to do with the Florida Mayhem because they have been deciding it's time. It's time to go recruiting. It's time to pick up some players. Now that they're an all Korean roster, they have been going to the Korean areas. They've been finding some players. They signed 4 players, Joe, since we last had a podcast. 4.
Yeah.
It started off with Rain support player. That was on June 17th, so earlier this week, I guess, or earlier. Yeah, it is Thursday. He's from O2 Blast. He's a support player. O2 Blast. He's a Lucio guy. He's a main support. He's not a flex support. And then yesterday, they came in and signed DPI, Gargoyle, and Carrion. Are they all from the same team? All
I
from
believe so.
all from
Uh,
Armament,
Armament.
Armament,
Yeah.
which is Contenders Korea team. And they are respectively DPI is a DPS, Gargoyle is a flex, and Carrion is a tank. Everyone super excited about these signings. As far as the Contenders Korea fans go, they say these players are really good, and a lot of them are excited to see them in the Overwatch League now, and say that Florida has made a really good signing, Joe. Um, Here on this podcast, me and Joe are Florida Mayhem. We we we're not too confident in the Florida Mayhem and their organization. But Joe, you got to give them credit for as you said it before, throwing money at things continually, because that's, I mean, how else are they going to fix it, right, Joe?
Yeah, well, and in the last 6 weeks, I just pulled it up because I was curious. In the last 6 weeks, Florida have gained or lost 12 individual players
Oh my God.
in the last 6 weeks.
I,
That they're up
yeah.
to a full 12-man roster now. Um, but yeah, it's just a little bit crazy that uh, to have all of that. I mean, on the one hand, I guess. Again, we've been saying this for weeks now that I guess they have an idea of what they want, and so that's something, and we could give them a little bit of props for that they're clearly going after what they want, but at the same time, yeah, you gotta have some success. Otherwise, it is just throwing money at something throwing money at the country of South Korea, until you get an Overwatch win, and it hasn't been super successful.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully they get an Overwatch win with this one. But if they don't, Joe, you know that they are going to throw more money at the country of South Korea until they give them a star. And you just you gotta hope. I mean, you gotta hope this is it for Florida, because if it's not, like, that's you're deep doo doo, because you have decided to make so many people like jobless, basically, instead of trying to work with them and just coming up and saying, okay, we want full Korean. And now they're going all in on it. We'll see if they get a win. We'll see if they start looking good. But I mean, you got to give them credit for actually trying their hardest here, to make sure that they have a competitive team, because I think they are right now. I mean, they're competing with Washington on being the worst team. And I think both of them are doing a really good job of saying, okay, it's time to start changing things, because what they got right now ain't working. Washington, not recently, but more of last stage. Washington was like, time to start changing things, and they did. But yeah, and then we had a nice little transfer, a nice little trade. Toronto gave Envy to the Shanghai Dragons. Envy has been all over the Overwatch League now. He was LA Valiant before, and now he's Shanghai, or then he was Toronto. Now he's Shanghai.
Yeah,
Um, and this is important because they've Toronto. I think this shows that Toronto has some confidence here in Gods, who's their new flex tank. They've been playing more and more this stage, over Envy. I think they were more excited with Gods, I guess, who they
it's
who they
true.
got from their contenders team, to replace Envy as that flex tank, and they gave Envy over to Shanghai. But who do you? I
Which is
mean, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's interesting because that you trade away your Korean flex tank from what used to be an all Korean Toronto Defiant, in favor of uh, the American player Gods. Like, I don't know if he um, speaks Korean. Or maybe he does. I don't know. But that's interesting. Uh, talking about the concerns you have to weigh, as a team, that it must have been worth it to them either to play with a mixed language roster or um, the to make that transition somehow. Um, and then, of course, you got Sherrick too, who is, I don't recognize that flag. Pulling up his page, he's Latvian,
Hmm.
so that's fun. Lives in the UK apparently. Um,
Yes.
anyway, but to make that shift away from that, there's they must have either gotten some good value for Envy from Shanghai, or like you said, they're really confident in these new players, or both, I guess.
Yeah. They. I mean, I think they got a good amount of money for Shanghai. Never. I mean, their flex is like Geggery. They're not running Geggery really, so they've never really had like a pure flex player. They're running DPS at flex right now, I think, because it's Zarya. So, um, I mean, Shanghai's never had that pure flex because Geggery's been like sort of a tank flex mix. Even on Liquipedia, it's listed as flex slash tank. So Envy's just a pure flex, really good diva player, obviously. So I think this is a good pickup for Shanghai here. But yeah, in interviews, I'm pretty sure someone on Toronto has said that they're speaking English. Everyone's speaking English. I don't think Sherrick or Gods can speak Korean. Maybe Gods knows a little bit, but I think they're all speaking English now. But I know head coach Bishop is very fluent in English, so hopefully the players are pretty fluent too, or else that would be kind of rough. Okay, but that's good for Shanghai. I think that's a good pickup for Shanghai, and I think Toronto made confident in Gods now doesn't necessarily need Envy, so good to get some more money.
Evidently, yeah.
But yeah, there's a new Batiste story comic. Um, and I feel
Uh,
like does this
well, and
happen every year? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it is actually a story that there's a handful of
Oh
illustrations,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
it's like a text story.
Yeah, it's like a okay. I see that. Not a
Uh,
comic.
yeah. So most recently, I think was the on a best head one. I think was
Mm-hmm.
the most recent one like this. Um,
When was that?
that's a good question. I know we talked about it on the show, but I guess we've been going for almost a year. So,
Yeah,
but
true.
yeah, and so just like the on a best head thing, we also have the Baptiste reunion challenge that's live right now. I think it's live right now. Yeah, like today, I think
Mm-hmm.
it started. You can go in and get 9 wins sometime between now and the 1st of July, and you'll get a bunch of sprays and an epic Baptiste skin that I actually really don't like. Like I don't like the way it looks.
Oh yeah,
It's kind of gaudy. I think it's on the last page of that PDF you're probably looking at, but
yeah.
um, it's whatever, I guess. But you can get that skin here in the next 10 or 12 days or whatever it is.
Yeah, you can
Um,
barely see him.
yeah. Not much as far as the actual content of the story. I mean, it's a little story about an interaction he had with some talent members in Haiti. So that's kind of cool. He introduced a couple new characters from Talon that so some people are pretty convinced that we're actually going to get a new Talon tank already. That might even be the next hero, or certainly one of the next few heroes that are coming. This character Malgo, who reminds me a lot of Maui from Moana.
Yeah,
Both in the pictures, both in the pictures and in the descriptions um, of him. It sounds a lot like that.
yeah.
Um, and the text does describe him as having a shield. I don't think we ever see a picture of it, but um, so another shield tank maybe incoming, which would be crazy because we haven't had a new one of those since Orisa.
Yeah, true. He does look so much like the guy from Maui from Moana. He's like got the tattoos too. That's so funny. Um, but yeah, we see him in like armor at one point in this illustration. But I don't see a shield. Yeah. Um, but yeah, that's cool. Always down for some more story content. I'll definitely start reading this. And we got that. I mean, we get that classic challenge thing that they do when they release new lore. They release like a skin, and then if you watch streamers, you get sprays and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, which is nice. It's a good way to get people watching Overwatch streams. So good on them. And then we actually got to see Jeff's face this week, Joe, with a dev update for June.
We did, and we were prepared to be surprised, and we weren't.
We, yeah, everyone's kind of disappointed with this dev update. Uh, it was just like him almost. I mean, it was just everything we knew already, and he teased like, didn't he tease like a big patch coming or a big change?
Or he might have like last time or something. I don't know. But
Hmm.
this particular dev update was pretty boring.
Yeah. Yeah, basically, I mean, it's like just reading patch notes, so like just telling us replays are here. You have here on the sheet. To share them, we recommend recording yourself, which is something Joe did not want. Joe wanted shareable replays.
Yeah, they've got to. That has to be like somewhere on their pipeline. Um, just for the sake of being able to like actually use them, because there's only so much that you can actually do yourself with replay. If you're not like a coach or something, but to be able to download a file and send it to somebody that then they can examine the replay themselves. I mean, that's gonna be super valuable once that comes out. But yeah, apparently today is not that day.
Yeah, it definitely should be coming. League of Legends has that. You can download your replay, find it in your system folders, send that replay off to people. Like they don't have like a direct share button or something like that, but I mean, Overwatch. I feel like that's down the pipeline, but yeah, kind of weird. Jeff didn't allude to that at all. Um, competitive deathmatch season he talked about. Deathmatch is fun,
Yeah,
so
I assume
that's
that's
always
live
good.
right now. I haven't checked, but
Yep, probably. But nothing else really. I mean, new heroes should be teased soon, like next 2 weeks or like sometime in July, right?
it's true
Um,
because it was Wrecking Ball this time last year.
yeah, exactly. So new heroes should be coming. Last I remember, Jeff was teasing that one robot. Was that Athena in that Ash short, or
Oh
who's the
yeah.
robot?
Oh no, because it was is it called Echo? I think.
Something. Yeah, it's definitely not Athena. It's some other. It's Echo or something like that. He was teasing that might be this one, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, and
Beyond
one.
that, there was a live server update,
Mhm.
which with the PTR patch is now on live servers. So in fact, the PTR is now older than the live patch because there was a little bit of a change. No surprises in like hero balance. This was the excuse me the Diva nerf. Rissa got a buff where she can throw her shield while she's reloading. Baptiste got a couple more heal grenades. And McCree's primary fire recovery time used to be a half second per shot. On the PTR, it was zero point 0.4 seconds per shot. On live, it's now 0.42 seconds per shot. Um, that's the only change between PTR and live. So they thought that the original change was a little bit too drastic. And I wonder if it's still going to be super powerful, even with 0.42 seconds instead of zero point 0.4. But we're going to find out here pretty soon.
Yeah.
I can see what happens. I mean, in theory, it's going to be in, um, week four or stage four of the Overwatch League
Hmm.
that'll be brought in. So we'll see.
Yeah. Ty Mill, a bunch of pros excited about this new McCree. And that makes sense. A lot of pros want to play DPS already.
Yeah.
New Brigida bug discovered. So is this the different bug from that armor, or was this an old bug, or is this the bug
Um,
I'm thinking of?
this is probably the one you're thinking of. It came out
Okay.
this last week, I think, certainly between now and the last show we had. But it's sort of complicated to explain quickly. But the gist of it is that um, when Brigida's Rally gives you armor, it gives it in like up to 15 little chunks over time, which is fine because that's the way it happens. It's awarded over time, but the game it has to be unintentional, surely. Um, the game actually awards you individual chunks of armor that calculate their own individual damage reduction. So instead of just a base 3 damage reduction every time, it actually does more than that because of some weird mathematical interactions. And you can look this up on Reddit. Um, if you want to get more into it. Uh, but the point of it is that rally armor, especially rally armor, um, given over time, like as you're also being damaged, is doing a lot more damage reduction than it is intended to be doing. Um, and they said that the theoretical max, um, theoretical max, it can block 90% of, like 90 or 95% of incoming damage, but that you have to manipulate a lot of stuff to make it do that. Um, but
Oh,
yeah,
they fixed it, Joe.
oh, they did. Where are you seeing
It's
that?
fi- it was fixed in 1.37.
Oh,
Brigida fixed a bug where armor damage mitigation was too effective when multiple instances of armor were stacked up on top of each other.
ooh, we did. Maybe I must completely miss that in the patch notes, I assume.
I guess so. Yeah, it's in there. They fixed it.
Uh, they no longer
Alrighty.
have the patch notes available on the launcher in like that tab because it's all
Oh.
Baptiste stuff now. But
Oh yeah.
uh, okay, so that was a bug that did exist until like this week.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
in
literally, someone discovered it like 4 days ago, and then like they fixed it right away.
Yeah, so in theory, I guess it's still in the uh, Overwatch League, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, it should be. It probably should be. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
uh,
that's not good.
yeah.
It
It
seems
makes
small, but it's pretty big.
yeah, it makes me wonder if I mean they probably because that's the sort of thing that I'm sure they could go in and hotfix, but I wonder if they just wouldn't like for to make the stage consistent. I don't know.
Yeah. Huh. Hopefully they fix that. That'd be weird. But yeah, maybe they won't.
Okay, so there you go. So that doesn't exist anymore on the live server, but it did for a while.
Yes. It did for a long time before people discovered it, and then they fixed it. So good on you, Blizzard. But yeah, let's move on to stage three, week three, Joe. As far as our picks go, I'm coming a little ahead. I'm 3 wins ahead of you now. Come
Let's
breaking
see.
free.
Yeah, 28 to 25. I only had one this past week.
Yes. Oh boy. We'll see. And we both picked Boston, and they lost. That's
We did.
But yeah, next this upcoming week, the match of the week is Chengdu Hunters versus Dallas Fuel. That rematch, that's gonna be a good one. But let's get into our picks. We're picking Paris versus Houston. I mentioned it earlier in the show as one to watch out for. Uh,
Absolutely.
but both teams looking a little better this stage. And since I am in the lead, I must pick first, Joe. That's happening today, and I'm expecting the Houston Outlaws to win this one. I think while Paris is getting a little hotter here, I think Houston's just gaining confidence by the second, and I love how their team's working together lately, and how comfortable they are on their picks. So I'm picking Houston.
Yeah, and that's my pick as well. I think if they don't win this first match, because it's like one of the first matches of the week, I think. Um, let's see, yeah, second match of the
Yeah, it's
day
the second
today.
match. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if they don't win this, I think that's going to be a pretty big red flag for for the rest of the Houston stage. But if they're able to come out with this, that's it's a good sign that they're uh, just they've got some substance to back up all these uh, all this speculation around them right now.
Yes. Um, Shanghai Los Angeles Valiant is the next game we're picking, and I think this is another good one. Another test specifically for the Los Angeles Valiant, who they've been looking good lately, better, but they haven't had a real test yet, Joe. They haven't had, and this is really going to be that first test. Shanghai Dragons here, um, but I do think it's going to be a bit too hard of a test, Joe. The Shanghai Dragons are very good. And while I have continually over this season said the Los Angeles Valiant is better than their record suggests and better than their results are saying. I don't think they're better than the Shanghai Dragons in the end of it all. So I'm picking Shanghai.
Yeah, well, in fact, this is a rematch from week one of stage three. The same thing they played. Shanghai played LA Valiant, and it was a win for Shanghai. It was
Mm-hmm.
3-1 that time, but yeah, partly that, and partly for all the reasons you said, basically that I'm also going for Shanghai here. I mean, um, like we said, LA Valiant has an interesting sort of schedule in that lots of the games they play are, they're underdogs going into it, but uh, this is one I think is going to be difficult for them to come out on top for sure.
Mm-hmm. Before we get to our next pick, we aren't picking anything on Friday, but I do think it's a notable day because we got a London New York rematch. New York stomped London last time. We'll see if London can sort of get back at them.
It's true.
Los Angeles Gladiators are playing Shanghai as well that day. I think that's a really good game between two really good teams. And then might as well mention Vancouver Chengdu as well because I believe last time they played they went to 5 maps and it was
Yeah.
super close.
Well, yeah,
Um,
they almost lost because
yep,
that was like into
Vancouver almost
stage one, I
lost.
think.
It was super close game, and that's when everyone was like Chengdu so good, this is sick. So Friday, watch out for Friday, some possible upsets and a really good Gladiators Dragons match. I feel like Toronto, Guangzhou. Guangzhou has been all over the place. Don't know if this team's good or not. Probably not. And Toronto, I'm liking Toronto's. I mean, I like Gods a lot. He could use some improvement here or there, but Toronto's making some moves here. Um, I'm more confident in Toronto than I am Guangzhou, so I'm gonna go with the Toronto Defiant and my man Gods.
Yeah, I think I like to do my picks in advance, and that was mine as well. And I'll probably stick with it this time. That seems to be working well enough. But yeah, Toronto, they've got a better record than Guangzhou currently, but similar consistency like you're talking about. Um, yeah, Toronto's been looking really nice. They've had some good pickups in the last, stage and a half or so. Um, and hopefully they'll be able to use that, um, to their full advantage against Guangzhou.
Yeah, Toronto, all the way. And then the game right after them is our last game we're picking of the week, and it's another really good one: Hangzhou Spark versus Seoul Dynasty. This might be my game of the week. This is going to be a good one. Last time they played each other was at the end of stage two, and it was for a stage playoff spot, and Hangzhou came out on top. Both teams peaking, so they're sort of reaching their full potential at the same time, and it's right now, and that's why it's sort of a really good matchup. It's so hard, and I have to pick first as always. I'm gonna go. I'm more confident in Hangzhou lately, especially since they beat him in their last matchup. So I'm gonna go with Hangzhou. I'm going pink and blue on this one, Joe.
Ah, okay. Well, so there's our one difference for the week then, because
Okay.
I am going for Seoul in this one. They've been looking really dominant over teams that they are better than. And like you mentioned earlier, they've had some weak performances over teams uh, that that are not quite as good as they are. But with a team that has this much roster depth and flexibility, I think that's going to be a really big key for them against this Hangzhou squad on Saturday. Yeah, Saturday. Nope.
Yep.
Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah. So, yep.
Cool.
Saturday night. Yeah. That's there are picks. That's our one difference, Joe.
Yeah,
Hopefully I'm right,
there you
or
go.
hopefully you're right.
Hopefully somebody's
So we
right.
hopefully yeah, hopefully someone wins. But yeah, that's our show. That was a good show, Joe. Good job. Um,
I'd say so.
yeah, but we're like almost an hour on the dot here. That's pretty impressive. But yeah, that's our show. If you guys want to follow us on Twitter, my personal Twitter is at JWGeorgeIV. Joe's is at Kirkpatrick_Inc. That's INC. Our Twitter has a show at On the Flank Show. If we got anything wrong, you can tweet at us and get mentioned in the show, much like at the beginning of the show.
Yeah,
Um, you
good
can,
times.
yes, great times. You can email us on theflankshow@gmail.com if you have any topics or questions you'd like us to talk about as well. If you are listening to this podcast in one way. If you want to listen to it in a different way, we are at ontheflank.podbean.com. My personal YouTube channel, John George. You can find that via my Twitter. We're on Apple Podcasts and iTunes. We're on Spotify, and we are on Google Play. Thank you guys for listening. Have an enjoyable Stage 3, Week 3.